try not to cry because in my old age, I'm very emotional. I never used to cry, but now I cry about everything. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Single Mother by Choice. My name is Martine, and today I'm going to share with you my 2-week wait experience and the symptoms that I had. So this was my first IUI cycle, and so I really didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how I would feel or what I would feel, and so at the end of this, I'm going to give some tips or just things that I wish I had known or things I wish I had done. But anyway, let's get into it. I want to get right into the meat of things and share with you my experience and symptoms with my first IUI cycle. So on the day of my insemination, I came home and I was feeling crampy on and off all day. So the first cramp that I felt was maybe a half hour after the insemination. It kind of felt like a period cramp, and it stopped. Like it wasn't ongoing, and it didn't last very long. And then when I got home throughout the day on and off, I experienced mild, like what I would characterize as like period cramps. And then I felt very tired, and I don't know if that was the emotion of the day, because that's a big day, right? Like you're getting inseminated, hopefully to get pregnant. And so I was very tired and took a super long nap. I also sort of felt lightly nauseous on and off throughout the day. And later on, I kind of discovered something I'll share with you in a little bit. And my HCG shot site was sore. So I was given the shot on the left side because that's where I had two two follicles that were ready to be released. And so the site of the injection shot was sore that day, but it was not sore the day that I received it, which was the previous day before I got inseminated. The second day, I was an emotional wreck. Like, I immediately was convincing myself that I'm not pregnant. I was like, oh, I'm 99% sure. Like, this is not it. Like, I just don't feel pregnant. And everyone I spoke to, because everyone and their mother, if you're not aware, everyone and their mother knows that I'm trying to have a baby. And so when I was talking to other women, you know, that I know, friends that I know that have gotten pregnant and have kids, I'm like, when did you feel like pregnant? Not that you felt kicking. I mean, I'm not crazy, you know, like, but I'm just thinking, like, when did you like know you were pregnant? And I just that day was convinced that this isn't my cycle. So I was super emotional about that, and I continued to feel like nauseous on and off throughout the day. But luckily, so I got inseminated June 21st, and so luckily, you know, the following day I had work. I work at a school, so we still had work. And I was so happy to actually be there. In the morning, I wasn't sure if I should have been there, but in the end, I really was happy that I was there, because people were just like making me laugh, and like I just had a lot of fun, and it took my mind off of it. Like, not completely, because it's always like back there, right? Or you have those moments throughout the day where you think about it, but it really helped me get through the day. So I really appreciate that, and I appreciate those people. So the second day post-IUI, I continued to feel tired. I felt hot in the morning, and I think this was like I don't know if it was a weekend yet, but I was feeling hot, so I took my temperature, but it was normal. It was like 97.74. So I was not actually hot, but I felt hot. I had a crampy uterus. So again, I was just very aware throughout the whole most of the 2-week wait of my uterus. It just felt heavy or crampy at times. My lower abdomen was just like sore. It felt sore. And of course, I continued to be emotional because I think that I had been I've said in past videos that throughout this whole thing, I've been pretty zen and calm, and like things have been going well and da 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 da. So I think that after I was inseminated, all of the emotions that I'd been managing just like came spilling out. So I was weepy and like just emotional and trying to keep myself in check. But really, I should have just experienced whatever I was experiencing. But anyway, very weepy and trying to control myself throughout the day, keep myself from crying. Day 3, so I started doing a lot of online research, because if I wasn't working or I wasn't with people, I was on the computer or my phone trying to look up like everything about what happens during the 2-week wait. I was researching everything and everybody, watching so many videos, reading so many blog posts. And so I saw that some women test out their HCG shot because the HCG actually makes you feel certain symptoms and like really mind fucks you. So I decided to take a couple of the cheapo like pregnancy tests, like the test strips, to see if the HCG shot was like leaving my system, because I know it can take quite a long time for some people for it to leave your system. So that's what I did on day 3. So I started to do a test for that, and it did come up positive, obviously, because I have that HCG in my system, which is what determines, in your urine if you're pregnant or not. I was still feeling tired. I was experiencing vivid dreams, and I noticed that if I didn't drink enough water, if I was dehydrated, that's what was causing me to feel nauseous. So it was like really important for me to constantly stay hydrated and drink enough water to not feel nauseous. So from that point on, I just realized, if I'm nauseous, like I just need to drink a lot more water. 4 days, again, I took the HCG and I noticed that the line was more faint than the previous day. So I knew that it was slowly leaving my system, which was good, and which was likely causing some of these symptoms. So I was happy that it was leaving my body, so then I could, really start to look out for like any pregnancy signs. So on day 4, I had post-IUI. I had no cramping or bloating, but I was starting to experience this like periodic shooting pain on my left side. So like in the groin area, that would be like a sudden shooting pain. And then it would just like go away. It was weird. And that would happen not all day, but like a couple of times throughout the day. I also had a headache that day, and I was urinating more because, again, I was drinking more, because if I didn't, I'd feel sick. And then that's when also like my TMI, well, all of this is TMI, whatever. It's about women's reproduction, and deal with it. If you're watching this, is because you're interested. But anyway, so I did start to have like tender nipples, and that sort of progressed and then started to decline. So by day, I think like 10 or 11, like I reached a peak in tender breasts and nipples, and then it started to like slowly decline. So by day 12, 13, it was like my breasts were back to normal, feeling normal. So I continued on day 5 past IUI. Started to feel again some of that shooting pain on the left side. I finally on day 5 got a negative HCG, so that meant that the next time, so that means on the strip it came up completely blank, no line whatsoever. So I knew that if I decided to take any pregnancy tests getting closer to day 14, that that would be a sign that I'm pregnant, right? So finally, day 5, got a negative HCG. I continued to experience some cramping, this time on the left side, and I wrote down that I could feel my uterus. And again, that has to do with it feeling like bloated. Like normally, you get bloated sometimes after you eat or before your period, but this was like, it felt heavy. Like my uterus felt heavy. I was very aware of my lower abdomen and my uterus, and so that was unusual for me. And so day 6 continued again with the nipple soreness. I was very PMSy, like I was very emotional. And again, I'm not sure if that just again had to do with like me in the past few months just trying to stay really even and trying to stay really calm. But I was just, or if it was remnants of, I don't know, just a lot of hormones being produced in my body. I don't know, but I was very emotional. I also weirdly had I wasn't gushing blood from my nose, but I did have a bloody nose, but it was dry. So I apparently throughout the night when I slept, my nose bled a little bit. And so when I blew my nose, I had blood coming out. But it was dry blood. But that happened for a couple of days in a row. And I continued to feel that pressure in my uterus. On day 7, I had period cramps all day. Not consistently all day, but on and off all day, I would get cramps. And people were like, oh, that's a good sign. That means that perhaps this is your implantation day, which really falls in line with what would be an implantation day. Normally you implant between days 6 and 10, I believe. So that would fall in line with that. And so, everyone was like, oh my God, maybe this is it. I'm so excited. And I kept being like, guys, this is not it. I just didn't want to go there. And I'm like, please stop. I know I do share a lot, and so that opens the door for people to sort of comment, and of course they care about me and want me to be successful, and a lot of people are supportive, which is really, really nice. And so they were being supportive, but I was like, I don't want to go there, I don't want to think about that right now, although that's all I do think about. But I also don't want to convince myself of me being pregnant and then being devastated. So I just was like, no, it's who knows what it is. So days 8 and 9, I felt nothing. So on day 7, I had cramping throughout the day, all day. Continued with some light nausea, of course, on and off. But 8 and 9, it's radio silence. There was nothing. No cramps, but I was very thirsty. Day 10 was a turning point. So initially I said that I would not do a home pregnancy test, that I would do it only at the doctor's office with a blood test. But can I be very honest? I just couldn't wait. I'd been through the 2-week wait sucks. And if you're not trying to get pregnant, you happen to get pregnant, that's a whole different story. No stress, no mess. But when you're actively trying to get pregnant and, you're just so anxious about knowing, I'm sorry, but I totally tested. I was actually away. I was in Montreal at the time. So I got up at 4 o'clock every morning because I just couldn't sleep well throughout the trip. I'm glad I went away because throughout the day it really helped me keep my mind off things most of the time, but I just couldn't sleep throughout the night. I would go to bed around midnight and I'd be up with the crack of dawn, at 4:30. So I took my first pregnancy test and it came up negative on day 10, Post-IUI, but I was still having tender breasts, but this is the point where it was starting to go down. So I had reached the peak of breast tenderness and then it started to kind of decrease from day 10 on. I also started noticing that not only was I nauseous if I didn't drink enough, but I was also nauseous right after I ate. So I was thinking is that indigestion? Could be stress related because I was feeling so stressed out the past couple of weeks. I was getting really snappy, and I was also experiencing pimples around my mouth, and I really don't break out anymore. I used to have a bad, well, not horrible, but I used to have acne issues, but now generally I'll get one here, one there, but I don't get clusters of pimples anymore at all. And so I had a cluster of pimples on my chin, which was not usual for me. And day 11, I tested again, big fat negative. Yep. And this is when I literally, I was at the jazz festival in Montreal and I just did not care. Like every second I could, I was on my phone, Googling, searching, trying to see okay, what should I look out for now? What are the chances that I'm actually pregnant now? And so I just went off the deep end, I think, at that point. I tried to hide it from my friends that were with me and my family, but I kind of went off the deep end at that point, just Googling, and all I could see were pregnant women. Does that happen to you? All I saw while traveling were just pregnant women constantly. And I'd be just envious. Anyway, so I was also that day getting day 11, so I got the negative test, but I also kind of felt, again, TMI, sorry, not sorry, but I felt wetness, so I thought that I was I was constantly checking to see if I got my period, because it just constantly felt just wet. Sorry, no other way to put it. And it kind of felt oh no, I got my period, but then there would be nothing there. So day 12, again, I tested negative. And at this point, to be honest, I'm starting to get, less hopeful. Even though people are well, just wait, some people, and then I was looking on the blog posts and some people were yeah, I got negatives, and then on day 15 I got a positive. So I was trying to stay hopeful, and I was reading again every blog post out there in the universe. I was still experiencing some mild cramping, period cramps, but I was no longer nauseous, but I was I had this insatiable thirst. I could not drink enough. And it was not throughout the day, but it was during different times of the day. I just could not get enough water. And then day 13 is the day that I was traveling back to New York from Montreal. And that day, again, on and off, I was getting cramps. I, again, was feeling sort of that wet feeling. So every time we would stop, we drove there. So every time we would stop at a site to use the bathroom, which I think was once or twice, I would go and check and nothing, but it just felt like I was getting my period. And then that night I did go home, it was late again, could not sleep because, sorry, put the notebook away. I could not sleep. I just couldn't get enough sleep. And, I don't know, my brain was constantly working. And then finally I felt that feeling again, where I thought I had my period. So I went to the bathroom and lo and behold, big fat negative. So, yep, this cycle didn't work. I was an emotional wreck. I was kind of happy when I did come home, because I do live at home, that my mom wasn't here, because I just needed to be alone. So I had a couple of days, because I traveled again. If you can't tell, I got a tan. Yeah. So I went to Miami for a wedding a couple of days later after my trip to Montreal. I'm really happy that I had those few days to myself, that I didn't have to talk to anyone. I didn't have to see anyone. I was actually supposed to go to a 4th of July barbecue, and I just decided I just couldn't. Yeah, I just couldn't. It was July 3rd that I came back, and July 4th I just texted my friend and I was I'm sorry, I can't make it. I didn't tell her why, because I wasn't ready to tell people why I wasn't willing to be social. So yeah. So the plans, I will share with you what my next steps are in a future video. However, I do want to share my gratitude to people who've been so supportive. I'm going to try not to cry, because in my old age, I'm very emotional. I never used to cry, but now I cry about everything. But I do want to say thank you to people who are being so supportive and so kind. I really appreciate your kind words and your prayers and all the baby dust and all that good stuff. And And again, this video is kind of long now, so I'll share my plans with you in the next video. For now, I'll say Auf Wiedersehen. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.